I am on a mission to change what we think of internships. Like, we've all seen the movies, read the books, have the experience of you're fetching coffee, getting people's dry cleaning. Absolutely not on my
Devil Wears
watch.
Prada.
100%, right? I'm not going to walk in and throw my coat at Anne Hathaway when I'm coming in with my interns. My interns and our intern program that we've built really focuses on that mentorship aspect and an equal energy exchange.
Hey, Amber, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I actually wanted to tell you something right before we started recording. I did mention this when we were talking.
Okay.
I was just reading your blog before we got started because I got your newsletter this morning.
Yeah.
Girl, there's so many good nuggets on there. So anybody who's not subscribed to your email list needs to hurry up and go do that right now, because that's what I was doing before we got on this call.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, a lot of the, spoiler alert, a lot of the topics we talk about on the show become blog posts, become other types of content as well. And I do love to give you different ways to consume it and different ways to word it. So I appreciate that a lot. But let's dive in and hear more about you. Who are you, Amber? What do you do?
Well, my name is Amber Frankhuizen. I'm the founder and CEO of AF Marketing. We are a creative agency based out of San Diego. We really focus on branding, real estate development, or for real estate development clients, and personal aesthetics. So, med spas, cosmetic dentists, all that kind of stuff. And we also do website design and development and social media management. And I founded my business in 2018. And I've become known in the area now as kind of like the intern whisperer, really focusing a lot of my efforts outside of what we do for our clients on mentorship, education, personal development, things like that.
Yeah, because I was going to say, even though I know you're in a marketing agency, we're going to be leaning into more of the people topic today. And can you just give a little bit of backstory on how you became sort of an expert on the internship area and how you found success with it?
Yeah, absolutely. To be quite honest with you, and I'm sure anybody who's started a business as an entrepreneur, they know like this work is a personal journey, right? Like you think you're going to build a business, file taxes, all of a sudden you're doing like inner child work and like looking at your shadow self and all this other stuff comes up. And, going through my professional career prior to starting this business in corporate America, there were so many like struggles that I had interpersonally or in leadership or management. And looking back, it's like all I needed was like a mentor to help me get through it. If somebody could just when you're in the weeds, you just can't see the forest from the trees. You need a third party perspective. And I wasted a lot of time, working for places where like my paycheck would bounce, or I was dealing with, latent racism or bigotry or whatever was happening. And I didn't know how to handle that. And the whole projection of what I want to do with my business in the mentorship and personal development of young professionals is truly self-serving. I'm just trying to be who I needed when I was in my early 20s. And to be quite frank, it's my favorite part of my business is, working with college students or recent grads. And it really came from recognizing, like, I think college is broken. We learn a lot of theory there. We have a lot of opportunities to try things out, but nobody's really guiding us with the life skills or professional skills that we so desperately need. And of course, boomers said it about us millennials, and now millennials are saying about Gen Z, like, oh, they don't know what they're doing in the office. You're right. They don't. They need to be taught. Like, we need to give people the opportunity to succeed by equipping them with the tools so that they can be successful in the workplace.
And learning how to apply what they are learning. Like some of the theory is important, especially if you're in a science. Like for me, when I was in accounting, right, and internships were all part of the equation. In my alma mater, an internship is required before you graduate. And I think that's absolutely a great requirement, because when you leave and you have no real world experience, then you're all learning theory and you don't know how much of it. You need to remember how much of it you're actually going to use. You spent all this time studying, and then you realize that maybe 10%, 20% of what you actually retain is going to be tactical and useful in your actual job. Like if only they just taught how to write an effective email, how to, communicate with your boss, how to ask for a raise, how to negotiate, how taxes work. Any of that stuff. And I think it's cool that, we have to take it in our own hands to become mentors for these, I say these kids, but I mean, they're adults. So let's dive in.
Mhm.
From the perspective of a business owner,
Mhm.
when do you recommend, because everyone loves the idea of, wait, I can pay these kids
Mhm.
for free, or like they can work
Mhm.
for me, or I can pay them really cheap and they'll get the stuff done for me. This sounds like a
Mhm.
great deal. But like, who should consider hiring an intern and who should not?
It's a great question. For my journey and where I was a solopreneur for a while. I started AF marketing working in my apartment on an ironing board. I didn't even have a desk. And I was grinding it out by myself until there were some things that I realized I was wasting my time on because it wasn't in my zone of genius. We talk about this all the time, right? That's the Gay
Mm-hmm.
Hendricks approach of really getting into flow state and doing what you can do best to effectuate revenue in your company. And for me, spending time engaging on clients' Instagram accounts to get them new followers was servicing the client. It needed to be done, but it wasn't making my agency more money. So I had to look at myself and say, like, what do I really need to double down on? And then are there things out there that I could task out that somebody else could do for me? But the check and balance on this is, are you doing something that you would pay a skilled worker to do? Well, if you need a skill or a specific level of kind of like experience, it's maybe not the right thing for an intern to take over. But if you have something that's, admin based or easy to execute, doesn't take a lot of background knowledge you can train really, really quickly on, that might be something you want to introduce to an intern. And the reality is the biggest key who should be looking at hiring interns is, do you have the systems in place for the business to run or for them to get trained easily? And do you have the time to invest in them? Because that's what this is about. I am on a mission to change what we think of internships. Like, we've all seen the movies, read the books, have the experience of you're fetching coffee, getting people's dry cleaning. Absolutely
Mm-hmm.
not. Not on my
Devil Wears
watch. That
Prada.
is 100%, right? I'm not going to walk in and throw my coat at Anne Hathaway when I'm coming in with my interns. My interns and our intern program that we've built really focuses on that mentorship aspect and an equal energy exchange. I am personally mentoring all of the interns that come into our organization on both a macro level of just general professional skills and on an individual coaching level. And I'm not talking about like life coaching, but working through their resumes individually, talking with them about their school projects. That's what I make time for. That for me was the cusp of like, okay, I have time to invest. I have skills I can, give to these other interns. It's time for me to bring somebody on.
I love that. And pouring back into them and saying, how can I also enhance their experience or their knowledge right now so that they become more valuable? That's the biggest, I think, differentiator, because most people think, oh, I can just hire them as cheap labor.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, they're very grateful for the
Mm-hmm.
opportunity to work for you, but there's a one step further. There is a, how can I serve them instead of how
Mm-hmm.
can they serve me? And I think that's the huge mindset shift and why I appreciate your perspective on it. And on that note, let's talk paid versus unpaid.
Yeah.
It's there's got to be like a lot of people asking, wait, unpaid, is that legal? Number one.
Yes.
Is it favorable? Like, how does that all work? Because and from personal experience, I was asked, I decided to offer an internship and they said, how much do you want to pay them? And I just froze and I was like, oh crap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I don't know how much am
absolutely.
I supposed to pay them. It felt like a whole new economy. So can you just go into that a little bit in terms of what you learned?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a legal side of this and there's also kind of an ethical side of this. And I think that
Right.
really plays and is very important to me in recognizing the fact that doing an unpaid internship can be a privilege for a student because there are a lot of students out there that are working full time and need income in order to support themselves to go through school. So I actually offer both options, but the focus of the intern program that we run is to give students college credit in exchange for their participation. So I want to make sure that that's really clear. There is an ethical consideration there of making sure that you have entry level opportunities for people at, minimum wage to come in and intern for you as well. If they're not eligible, I'm always looking at the full range of spectrum of applications we come in, but that's just the kind of top line stuff. But from a legal perspective, there's actually what's called the beneficiary test, primary beneficiary test. There are 7 points that need to be met in order for you to hire an unpaid intern. And this is nationwide. And then each state has their own specific specifications as well. So depending on what state you're in, do a quick Google search to make sure that you're up to date on this. But the majority of the primary beneficiary test is making sure that the beneficiary of the internship is the intern, not the business. That's the kind of overarching thing. So again, making sure they're getting college credit. You have to make sure that everything is very clearly communicated, meaning that they're uncompensated and they know that they're going to be uncompensated. They're getting training on the job. They're getting, like I said, the academic credit, but it's also not prioritizing your business. It's prioritizing the academics for the student, their workload at school and their calendar, all of these other little details, and making sure that this is outlined in an agreement upfront is super, super important. So that kind of framework will give you the go ahead to hire an unpaid intern. But the reality is this is extra schooling for them. And like you said, it's a requirement at your university to do an internship. I find that that is becoming a requirement at most business schools. So it's one of those things like you are now offering service to the community. And on that note, I have to say, like I mentioned this, it's one of my favorite things to do in the business, right? Like working with these college students or recent grads, but it has helped me as a business owner in building credibility, giving back to the community. I now have been a featured speaker at my university, San Diego State, many times as an MC or a panelist. I've become a bit of a representation for what this means. And the reality is a lot of people come to me and ask me questions like you did, Shannon, like, can you hire people unpaid, or is this legal? What do I do? I have to say that this has been the best investment that I've ever made because it's helped build my business credibility and me as a business owner tenfold.
And I think that as employers, right, or as business owners, one of the biggest challenges we have right now in this economy in this time is I'm seeing a lot of, and again, I'm immersed in the accounting industry, so I'm seeing a lot of this. I'm seeing a lot of turnover. I'm seeing a lot of lack of stickiness in this generation in terms of, you know, our parents, my mother in particular, she stayed at the same job for 30 years. You know, that was not uncommon.
Right.
And even now, as kind of a millennial, I'm going, I had to get uncomfortable to jump jobs. Like all of us feel like we're jumping off a cliff when we leave a job, right?
Right.
And then now we have Gen Z coming up who are like, I don't like the way you talk to me. I quit, and then go to another job, or they want to just like, and I'm not knocking Gen Z, but like it's way
Yes.
easier. I feel like they are less stuck to the Velcro of their office chair. They are willing to get up and say, you know what? I can find a better opportunity elsewhere. And they have the right, and they are right to do so. I think that's actually a really good progressive thought. But what that's doing is making a lot of us insecure because we hire these people on and we go, oh, how do I know they're in it for the long haul? How do I create an environment that makes them want to keep coming back, that makes them happy to work with me, for me every day? And what are your sort of cultural recommendations when it comes to building a strong and desirable internship program so that they want to come back and they want to grow with the company eventually?
100%. I mean, I think this is one of the unsung heroes of the internship program as well. It becomes a feeding system for recruitment for you to grow your business. You've just spent however many months, 3 or 4 months, training somebody to be exactly how you want them to be productivity wise or culture wise. And it's a really easy transition to be like, congratulations, why don't you come work for me now with the skills that you've built? So that's super key. And I think this point, Shannon, is really important for any business owner, whether you're wanting to do an internship program or not, or you just want to hire, is that I really see a lack of focus on sharing the benefit of what the employee or intern gets from working with you. And if I see, a job description that doesn't show me what's in it for me, whether it's, salary, benefits, culture, I can't get it from your website. Why am I interested in applying? You're completely right. The job market,
Just selling it.
Yeah, you have to sell it. And for us, the culture it's ingrained in me. It's ingrained in our company. It's personal development. So it is coming in, and you are not coming in and doing a job and then never growing. I'm sending my team to conferences. They're doing continued education with whatever their specialty is, whether it's social media marketing or email marketing or copywriting or design. Like that's part of the culture of our company. And with the internship program, our interns immediately get enrolled, quote unquote, into our AF Marketing University. And I've built a curriculum, and I recommend that any business owner does this. I built a curriculum for onboarding any of my team members. And I do different videos that touch on different subjects that are important for me to communicate to anybody that comes on board. And those topics include professional communication, how to be concise in an email, how to be clear and talk to clients or to me. It includes productivity, what my expectations are, like how you need to stay organized, file arrangements, calendar management. It includes, for our interns, how to do your resume correctly, how to interview, what not to do, what to do, all these different little tips and tricks. And it really helps me set the expectation as a business leader about what we're doing here, because it's changing the script about giving value first, me to them, and then them to me, right? So I'll give you a really good example. I'm actually hiring for a couple of positions right now, and it is an entry-level position. And a lot of people come and interview and they come to me and they say, well, I'd really like to work with you because I'd really like to learn from you. And for me, you're dead in the water. If I'm hiring you, you've got to understand what your value is that you're bringing to the company. Even if it's entry level or you're beginning, you still need to come in and provide value in exchange for your pay, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's going through and talking about with the interns why that's not the best way to interview, of saying, I want something from you. I want you to pay me and I want to learn from you. And I'm going to use you as my education course, versus coming in and saying, hey, I'd like to come in and here's what I know how to do well. I can do this, that, and the other thing. And I'm also interested in growing in these skills. Well, in our internship program, we put our interns through a process where we're helping them develop what those skills are. Like, what are you good at? And then how are we purposefully communicating that on your resume? For me, that's the number one thing interns are looking for. They want to figure out what they're supposed to be doing after college and how to get a job. And so that's a big focus of what we do. And as a business owner, you look at resumes all the time, so you know what's good and what's not, right?
Yeah, exactly. And you brought up an idea here, and I want to just throw this out there for anyone listening, right? We spend so much time, energy, and I've seen so much content about selling online, like positioning yourself with an ideal client avatar, right? Messaging on your website, all that stuff. But here's the thing, guys, why not your careers page?
Mm-hmm.
Your careers page is just as important in attracting the ideal employment avatar, if you will, like the ideal team, because you have to know what you stand for, core values. You have to know where you're at. It's like a relationship. You have to be like a fully formed human with opinions. And because what I find is people will they'll bring on a team, whether that's interns or not, but let's just say interns, right? And the interns are going to look to you for guidance. They are the insecure one. They are the one who's moldable. They are the wet clay. They're like, okay, they want you to tell them what to do. And if you're not clear on direction or clear on what you want or what your expectations are, then that internship is going to not really thrive or succeed, in my opinion, because the expectations were never clear. So they'll never know if they're making you happy or not. And if you don't know where you stand, then you're probably going to either assume the worst case scenario or just feel uncomfortable.
100%. And I'll give you a metric to really prove that point. On our website, we are a marketing agency, right? So we have an about page, we have a portfolio page, contact page, the things you would expect. Our portfolio page gets the most views because people want to see our work. But the page that gets us the most emails is our ethos page, the page that has our 5 core values. And that's where I get the most people writing, wow, I just read your ethos and I really connect with it. Or people asking, are you hiring? And I can track that metric. And it's one of those things that the ethos page, and we make our core values as a team. We review them every single year and really to make sure we're focused in, we're all committed. And that guides our business. It guides our mentorship program. And it is the best recruitment tool that I have.
What recommendation do you have if someone's listening right now and they say, I don't have my core values, and we don't have to go into that. I'll do a whole nother episode on core values, guys. But, you know, my favorite is my core values are honesty, integrity, respect, and every other acronym we've heard in corporate America. I've worked at so many different like Fortune 50 companies that I'm like, they're all the same. And they made it into an acronym so you can remember it. But it doesn't resonate. And what is your tip or resource that you would recommend if someone says, I really want to get clear on my core values?
I love this question. Obviously, we're a branding agency. We do a ton of brand strategy. We go through this with our clients and branding all the time. It's a big focus of what we do in strategy. And my recommendation is to get a piece of paper out and draw a square, a grid with 4 spaces in it. And across the top, you're going to say positive, negative. And across the side, you're going to say feelings and experiences. And I want you to jot down either the feelings or experiences that your customers have from working with the best version of your type of company and the worst version of your type of company. So I'll give you an example. We just did this with an interior designer last week, and an interior designer, the worst experience is that it's over budget. It's not what they said they wanted. It's behind, it's, it's stressful, it's chaotic. The feelings are mistrust, it's chaos, it's out of control, all of these different negative experiences, and then take the positive side of that. And then I want you to figure out where you fit in the middle of that, of what are the things that you're trying to avoid against, and make those your core values. Like core values for that particular client was elevating the voices of her clients and really listening to them so that they never feel like their design wasn't executed to what they envisioned. And that also means super clear communication on a consistent basis. So those types of things pop out once you really explore both of the extremes, and you can find out what you're going to dedicate to make sure that you deliver for your clients.
And once you define what those values are, anchor back to them. So like if you have that curriculum that Amber mentioned, where she has a training program or has materials, right, in here at Financial, what we do is at the top of the checklist and the top of the templates, we have the 3 core values. So it's reminding you that if you're doing anything on this page that doesn't relate to one of these 3 things, please call me. Right. If you're doing anything that doesn't tie into one of these things, we need to have a talk, because I also need to be held accountable to creating work that doesn't anchor back to the value. So it's a really great tool to keep everybody focused, but also to find the people who are really good fits for you. And I think also if you can set a good example for interns and say, this is what we stand for. I also find very, very tactically, the generation that's in college right now is way more invested in the mission of a company than the money. And I was meant to tell you this, I went to my alma mater. And I actually got to speak to a class of students in the accounting 201 class, right? The basic accounting class. I was with a partner at a large firm. He showed up looking exactly the way you would expect a partner in an accounting firm to look, brought the briefcase, brought the suit, brought slides, right? And I was standing there, like, not unprepared, but I was like, they don't want to see your slides.
Couldn't agree more.
He pulled up a slide that had the salaries of Big Four partners, what you can expect to make if you major in accounting, like trying to sell them on majoring in accounting, right? And I just looked around the room. I was walking around the front, and they said, Shannon, do you have anything to add to this? And I said, actually, yes, I do. And I said, raise your hand if you don't give a rat's you know what about the numbers on that slide. Be honest with me. And then everyone was like,
nervous, but
like,
yes,
nervously, if you
100%.
can't see me, I'm nervously creeping up a hand, like, kind of. And I'm looking at them in the eye, and I'm like, be honest with me. Does anyone really care about how much money you can make? How many of you know that they have to work 60 to 80 hours a week for multiple years, if not a decade, to get there? You all know that. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I know, like, I knew their values were different. So like, if you want to convince someone to work for you, work with you, work in an industry, you got to know where they're at, because you're selling something they're not even buying.
100%. That's such a good point. Absolutely.
Yeah. Let's dive into the tactics of internship, like, development, right? So let's say I'm honestly jealous, because I love me a good framework, a good system, a good process. And I cannot wait. I'm like itching at the fact that, like, oh, I can't wait to build this like onboarding curriculum. This is a great idea. And number one, where do you get the ideas to like put this into a more, structured type of framework? And number two, what are your recommendations for where to start developing a proper internship program? Not just hiring the intern. That's actually going to come later, right? It's developing the program.
Well, I'm going to answer your second question first, because I think it's the core of why people don't get started. Is it's like, I'm overwhelmed, I'm supposed to be all like organized. No, you're not. Okay. First of all, anybody can be a mentor. If you're on a path, you are at least one step further ahead of somebody, and you can help them. Okay. So anybody is qualified to do this. And the second thing is, no, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have everything figured out. In fact, you're going to use your first semester's interns to help you get organized. And the first task of your first interns, 1 or 2, 3, however many you get, is for them to build out your SOPs and that onboarding process. Because as they come in and they're like, I don't know what the heck I'm supposed to do, you're like, great point, write it down, let's figure it out together, and leverage those interns of what they don't know or what questions you need to answer to have them build your SOPs in your onboarding process. Everything from, this is the way that we use our time tracking system, here's a link to the Toggle website of how to use it. Or here's our project management system, here's the video training of what you need to watch so that you can come in and get started right away. That's the first thing that you need to do, is leverage the help that you have. And this has been a big lesson for me of delegation, right? Of like giving things to other people so that they can build it for me. That's how my internship program got built. And I want to take it one step further. On this mission, right, to build internship programs that are not fetching coffee and dry cleaning, I'm on a mission to give these resources, these tools, the ideas, the framework to as many business owners as possible. So I had the idea to put it into a kit, right? I kind of had this idea. I don't know if you remember these, Shannon, but like when we were kids, you'd buy like a tiny little sponge and you'd put it in water. It'd be like, grow a boyfriend, right? And it'd go boop, 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 and it'd grow bigger. I want those for interns, right? Like I want to put a sponge in a water and grow an intern. And so I want to do that for more than the people that I have the capacity to serve. So that means giving these resources to other businesses. So I was like, let's make a kit. Let's just do this really quick and dirty. We're going to do a really fast video series and give business owners the agreements, the legal things like the primary beneficiary tests, all of the research that I did. Let's package it up. And you want to know how that came together? With my intern team. The third semester that I had interns, I had an intern that I hired specifically because he was interested in videography. He had never done it in a professional capacity.
That's so cool.
He and I worked together on filming the videos. I talked to him about, proper communication with clients and setting it up, how he should be, da, 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 da. And then I had another amazing writer on our team of interns that year. She transcribed everything. She did all of the agreements. And I had another one who helped me put it all into Kajabi so that it could be packaged. So the whole internship kit was really developed by interns themselves. That's what I'm talking about, of leveraging them there. And that's why I have the framework that I do. And then moving on past that, what I've done personally over the years is I've just kind of kept this running list, like a Google Doc of like, these are kind of our policies on productivity or my thoughts or lessons. And some of that gets put into our standard operating procedures here and there, but more of it's like theoretical, or this is how I kind of see value exchange, da, 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 da.
Yeah.
And I've just kind of kept a running list of this. And it's things that we've talked about as a group every semester with our interns. And it wasn't until this year that I actually was like, okay, I kind of feel like I have my ideas formed. I'm just going to literally record a Loom video of myself talking, or a Zoom, and stick it in a resource for them to watch it later. So now I actually have a full university with all of the different topics, like how to prep for an interview, how to write your resume, what to do on an email, blah, 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 blah. They're all different videos or assignments for my interns. So now my whole kit is packaged not just for business owners to take and implement, but it's really easy for an intern to come in and get started and kind of lead themselves. But again, that took me 3 years to build. So take the pressure off yourself if you want to do this. You don't have to have it all perfect right away. It can take time. It can evolve.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where if you asked me 2 years ago, like, what's your onboarding policy or what are your procedures? I'd be like, I don't know. But you go through it and then you write down along the way, leave yourself breadcrumbs, and you go, yes, remember that. Like, stick a little Post-it note on that one. Like, remember that thing that bothered me? Let's see if we can get around that. Like, it's also being hyper aware of your reactions to what you like and what you don't like. So, and labeling it. For example, we brought up core values before. And actually what's funny is my method of core values is what would make you fire somebody?
Ooh, I love that.
When did you, think about the last client you fired. Why? And if you say, because they were non-responsive, I go, proactive communication is a core value.
I love that. That's such a good way to look at it.
Because it's a deal breaker. You literally just told me that was a deal breaker. So your deal breakers are your core values. If you actually look at what would get you to fire somebody, or you make your list of your like least favorite 3 clients and you say why, if you gave them a 1-star Yelp review, start writing that 1-star Yelp review for your worst clients or your worst team members. This is going to sound really negative.
No,
but
it's great.
But you're so much better at articulating what you don't like because it affects you differently. Because if
That's
you
so
like
true.
something, it's like the default, the neutral, the happy, and you're like in this like neutral zone of not recognizing it.
Yeah.
But when something bothers you, it bothers you. And I
Yes.
realized that if you can take that and you can turn that into your values, it's really powerful. I feel really strongly about our values as a result of that because I knew
Mhm.
these are the reasons why I would fire somebody. And it's huge.
To go on that point too, it's one of those things where I have to think about poor little 21-year-old me, like working three jobs. I was
Same.
just dirt poor, like just struggling and not knowing, is this normal? Am I okay? Am I doing the right thing? I had no idea. And
No feedback.
like, P.S., I was not doing the right thing and no, it was not normal. But the reality is, if there was somebody that was, a couple years older than me, that was maybe an entrepreneur, maybe like just giving me these ideas or having the conversations about what they care about as a business owner, it would have helped me so much to focus on the right things instead of all of the distractions, right? Like,
Totally.
I wish somebody would have told me 15 years ago, like, when you come into a job, you need to figure out a way to fit into the bigger picture. It's not about you. Yes, you want to succeed and grow and da 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 da, but if you can't effectuate the business goals, then you're never going to succeed, right?
Right.
And hey, if this company doesn't have any clear business goals or you don't see a way you can add value, you're not going to grow there. Don't sit there and spin your wheels. Go to an organization where there's upward mobility if that's what you're going after. But I sat in college and right after college in multiple jobs where there was no opportunity for growth, but I didn't even have the context to recognize it.
Yeah. Or in my case, for example, I sat in a company for 7 years. I shouldn't say sat, it was definitely a hustle for 7 years, and just thought that like all of that was normal. The stuff that I endured, the stuff that I saw, the things I put up with, the long nights, like just said, well, that's just what comes along with it. Like you just
Right.
tolerate. And then you
Mm-hmm.
realize that like, oh, I don't have to do that. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that just as important as establishing core values is to you as a business owner,
Mm-hmm.
anyone within the sound of my voice who is who say just an employee, no one's just an employee, but if you're an employee or intern or someone looking for a job, maybe you're out
Mm-hmm.
in the workforce right now, take equal time to go, what am I looking for?
Right.
Because you want to make sure there's an alignment there. It's just
Mm-hmm.
as important to make sure that they can foster your career growth, but then also, like you said, you serve the overall mission of the business so that you're in alignment. Because if you
Mm-hmm.
don't have a shared mission, then someone's going to be disappointed.
Absolutely. Another thing on that point too, Shannon, is that in building an internship program, it's not just for entrepreneurs. If you are a manager with a division, even if you have nobody to
Right.
manage, you just have projects to manage, but you can use some help or some assistance, this is a great opportunity for you to go to your boss and implement this and say, I've got the kit for how we can get some unpaid interns. I need some help this semester. I'm going to manage them. Boom, you've just created yourself a management opportunity. Like, you've
Yeah.
just elevated yourself within the company and you've done goodwill on behalf of the company you work for. So it's about being creative with the opportunities that we have. I think as long as you are a growth focused person, not an employee or an entrepreneur, a growth focused person,
Yeah.
mentorship is for you. And if you don't have the capacity for a mentorship program right now, I would say please, like, put cast the net. I mean, everybody says like, no, I don't have time for coffee. You're right. I don't have time for coffee with people that are just like trying to pick my brain for free advice, but to give back to the younger generation, to college students, high school students, recent grads, and spend time with them for 30 minutes over Zoom, it's invaluable to them. And I think it's our duty as business leaders to give back to our community. So if you're
Yeah.
not able to make, meaningful contributions with your dollars, please give it with your time.
And I'll add to that with some really specific examples. A couple of organizations that I've been part of in the past, which is Beta Alpha Psi, which is the accounting and finance on our fraternity, Alpha Kappa Psi, which is the professional business fraternity. These are all aspiring business leaders, and a lot of them are in. And I know there's like Beta Gamma Sigma. There's a marketing one.
Yes.
Um, oh, I forgot the name of it. But they were a competitor on campus. But there's so many of them that there's these organizations on campus. You can go to any school and say, I want to talk to your society for, marketing majors or for finance
Mm-hmm.
majors, and I want to speak to them. They
Mm-hmm.
always are looking for people to speak. They're
Yes.
always looking for guest speakers in their meetings, and
Mm-hmm.
it can be really impactful. I just did a talk actually And again, we were just talking before we hit record about how disappointed we were with what is not being taught in college.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them is that I went into the career services. Just so you guys know, I went to the career services group because I said I wanted to start an internship program because I wanted to bring on, as I realized how little they were learning about real life. And I said, okay, I'm taking this in my own hands and I'm going to offer the internship. And I said, do they know the difference between employee and contractor? Do you tell them that? Do you teach them that? No, they don't.
Nope.
They don't.
No.
And they said, well, we don't even really know the difference.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
And guys, you've been listening to me. You know, that was like a dagger to my heart. So you know what I did? I volunteered to do a speech at Beta Alpha Psi teaching the difference between those two things. And I said, record it. Give me the recording. I'll share it. Like, I'll give it to your professors, make them give it to you, because these are the types of things that I'm just really disappointed they're not learning, but we have to take it in our own hands, guys, because they're not going to do it for us.
100%. And if I can, I want to give a little nugget too to the business owners out there too, because
Yeah.
just like you, I go back and I speak at my college all the time. So I'll speak to like the American Marketing Association or something like that. And PS, again, like great recruitment tool. I've had so many interns and potential people apply because I spoke there and they heard me. However, what I've realized is like, we know universities are bureaucracies, lots of red tape, lots of craziness. I'm going to share my biggest hiring hack that I drop in the intern kit, but I don't talk about it publicly. And I just want to give you guys a nugget. Okay. I never advertise for interns on the college websites. I have student learning agreements with the different colleges, and I also can do internships virtually. Anybody can intern from wherever with me. We do have, student learning agreements with a couple of different universities, but I get all of my employees and interns applying through LinkedIn. And it gets overwhelming because I'll get like 225 applications every time I put up an internship post. And your girl does not have time to go through 225 applications. So here's the hack. I put an Easter egg in the body of the job description, and it says applications submitted through LinkedIn will not be submitted. To apply, click this link, and it takes them to a Google form. And then they answer just a couple of quick questions for me on a Google form. And
What a
then
great
at the
filter.
end of the right. And then at the end of the Google form, it says, if you're interested in this, email me at this address with your resume. And all of a sudden I've gone from 225 applicants who didn't even read the job description. So why would I hire them, to between 15 and 25 actual applicants who were detail oriented, took the time to read the application. I know we'll do a good job in reading other instructions and directions, right? And they've self-filtered for me. So now I've really narrowed my time in a really effective way.
I'll add to that. How can you get them to showcase the skill before you even interview them? How can you get them to showcase a valued skill before you even talk to them? This was something I did too. I was looking for a tax person, and I said, send me a Loom video as your application,
Yes.
answering these 3 questions. Why? Because we do all of our tax return reviews via Loom. If you don't know what Loom is, or don't know how to use it, or not comfortable on camera, this is not going to be good for you, because you're going to do 20 Looms.
100%.
Like, your primary job is going to be to walk through stuff on Loom, especially virtually. So, that narrowed down the applicant pool pretty significantly. But what it did was it created the opportunity of, who's really listening, who's going to take the time to go do it, who really wants to apply. And there's nothing wrong with that. I love that hack. I absolutely love it. Now, you mentioned something. I want to end on this note because I want to make sure we get this in, because this was a brilliant tip I learned from your course. You mentioned earlier in the interview, whether you have 1, 2, 3, multiple interns, you suggested multiple interns. Like, don't dip your foot in the water, just step in the dang puddle and and get a few interns. Why do you say that? I thought this was a brilliant tip.
I love having more than one intern at a time, because you've already created a community for them where it takes the pressure off of you as the leader to solve all their problems and be the person that they need to talk to. So obviously we have our interns, like, in our team meetings on Zoom or in person, they come into the office, they shadow with my other employees, but it's a lot of pressure on me, a lot of energy wise. And so if I can give them a group project, so to speak, or I can say, go work on this together and discuss among yourselves and then report back to me, they've automatically got some support in there, and I don't have to be that support. Not only that, but working together, it's just more efficient that way. I get to impact more people at one time. And also it just makes for a little bit more of a culture in our program that really relieves the pressure valve.
And especially because, like you mentioned earlier, they're in a state of insecurity and vulnerability. They feel like they're the stupidest person in the room. Like I just remember how much anxiety I had as an intern going like, am I doing,
Yeah.
literally if I say or step somewhere wrong, I'm just terrified. So
Yeah.
having someone else who's also in that position to relate to and be like, we're in this together is so impactful. I think that's such a great
100%.
idea. I was in an intern class of 24, and it made me realize when you mentioned that, I was like, oh my gosh, yes. If I didn't have that class of interns at the firm, we are still friends. Like
Right.
whether
It's
we
such a
actually
bonding
took the
experience.
job, whether we stuck around, I was one of the 6 left. And it was funny because there were bets on who was going to be the longest lasting or like who was going to make
Yeah.
it through like Survivor. And we stayed in touch and we're still Facebook friends. And you know, that first training, we were all there, all equally scared. It really makes a difference.
When you're in the trenches with your peers, I mean, that is a real bonding experience for
Yeah,
sure. And I just can't overstate, like, this is about supporting the interns, not milking them, right?
yeah.
It's about giving them the support that they need. And a buddy is always a good system for that.
Totally agree. Amber, this is so great. I could chat about this stuff all day. I love it.
Me too.
So tell us more about the intern course kit. I'll let you describe it and name it, and where people can learn more about you and your company.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, Shannon, thank you so much for not only being a part of our intern program and really like spreading the mission and giving the kids, sorry, I shouldn't say that. Giving the
We feel old.
I know I'm dating myself, but you know, it really means a lot to me that this mission is getting carried out by business leaders like yourself, because that's why we created it. And the kit, as I've referred to a couple of times, listen, everybody, and myself included, we've got course fatigue. I don't want to take one more course. So I've made this kit that's like quick and dirty. It's videos and or audios of basically going through a very systemized 7-step process of building an internship program. You should be able to listen to that once, kind of get the quick and dirty of it. But mostly the value here is all of the extra materials that it comes with, including a internship agreement, a COVID-19 waiver, a curriculum, all the different paperwork that you need, even worksheets to help you work through what your benefits are that you're going to give to your interns, and articulating that. It has job descriptions in it, for goodness sake. So it really just kind of gets you going as quickly as possible. The intern kit is available on our website. Again, my company's name is AF Marketing, but it's spelled AFMKTG.com/intern kit. And because I love you and your audience so much, we want to give a discount code valid through January 31st of 2023 for 50% off. Use the code Shannon.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I hope to hear from anybody who's listening. If you have questions, you want to chat, I answer all of our DMs. We're on Instagram, afmarketing.com, afmktg.com. Find me at Amber in California on Instagram as well.
Fantastic. We'll have all of those things linked in the show notes to make it easy for you guys. But thank you so much, Amber, again. And I can't wait to talk to you soon.
Thank you.